So, welcome back to Diary of a Wayshower, episode I think 7. and I hope you're enjoying listening to me. It feels really good just to speak my truth and to release this. When you have to keep quiet about something, or you think you need to keep quiet about something, it's incredibly disempowering and really keeps you in that energy of duck and dive and fear of flight. And I wanted to, as I say, start talking to assist myself to heal the layers. And this has been a very cathartic experience for me. And in fact, as I've started talking, more layers of my childhood have come off. It's quite interesting. So it's helping me in so many ways, and I think it's good for all of us to get our thoughts and our expressions of truth out there into the world. They're needed for others to understand, and even if you write it down in a diary or in a journal, is a good idea. And that's why they encourage people to journal, don't they? Because it's so empowering to release that out of your body, because your body will create disease with this sort of energy being kept secret and quiet. So I thought what I'd address is, because I'm going to carry on, of course, this is my living legacy, this truth that I want to speak. I thought I'd explain why they would target me in the first place, because you would think, well, why are they doing all this with you? Well, that's because I came into this lifetime fully knowing what I was coming into. So I knew I was going to be attacked. I knew I was going to go through MK Ultra and satanic ritual abuse. I knew what that entailed. I knew it would be difficult, and I came anyway. Brave me. And there are others that have come in to do similar roles, and so I came in to infiltrate. I came in to blow it apart. And I came in to reveal it, alchemize it, heal and transmute it, not only for myself and my ancestral line, but I'm doing it for the planet on a planetary body basis. I don't claim any titles as a soul. That's not my game. I've never been interested in that at all. I just know I am a highly evolved soul. I know that. I know that I have had many, many, many lifetimes. And I know that I am a galactic council member. I know that much. And that I came to alchemize and clear and assist in deplatforming the grids that are used and hooked up to the satanic rituals and the people, and almost like the loosing of the energy from the satanic ritual abuse. And I came to deconstruct those grids. I came to take them down for the planet. And I know I've done a lot already. I've had some feedback on that recently. So, and that was my job. I knew it would be difficult. I knew I might fail at some point or have to leave my body early. But I came anyway to do it. And I came to complete ascension for myself, and also to lead others. And I do know that I've ascended in other lifetimes, so to speak. So I am able to. That's why I was catching up very quick towards the end, because I have achieved that before. So therefore, I am able to, do you know what I mean, run with it and go on fast track, um, which I've been doing. So I knew what I was doing before I came in onto this planet. I knew I was coming to uh, activate during the program, which means that I knew I'd be programmed. I knew I would be hit hard, and I planned to activate during it, which means that you wake up during the time you're programmed, and then you alchemize, heal, and transmute it, and then you hit the whole grid. And I did that. I did that. So I am proud of myself for that. But there is a high price to pay for my body, my physical body, and what it's been through. Um, and I do know that I was particularly hard to break as a child, and they did a lot at me to break me or try and break me. I was punished very severely for speaking out or saying anything or not doing what they wanted me to do. And I had an ability to open interdimensional portals, and so they were using me for that in rituals as a child where I was ritually abused. So you can imagine what they were doing, and they were using me at that point to open portals up for them and all sorts of things. Um, from what I can gather, I became less effective as the years went on, and I think that was probably on purpose. I don't know what happened, whether my iron presence or the council, whatever, just like started to stop that, uh, and I started not to be as useful to them as I was before. Um, and I was used in the very highest rituals and ceremonies on this planet. So I am in the ilks of Cathy O'Brien and people like that. I know that now. I didn't know that before, but I know it now. And it's taking me a bit of courage right now to speak that, but I want to just get it out. Like I have to speak my truth. So I've been used by top leaders, government leaders, presidents, prime ministers, heads of secret societies for their dirty work as such. As a child with no chance of fighting that, I tried to fight it. Apparently, that was one of the scenes that I got back in. I actually recovered a scene from my childhood, and I was punished severely for saying no to something, and I had no chance. They would have, and also I now know that they killed me literally thousands of times and revived me. So I've died literally and been brought back, drowned, and it's horrible. I know. I just have to tell you the realities of what goes on this in this world, and we have to do something about it. It's interesting that the childhood, I had not much memories of my childhood, but now I'm realizing that some memories of my childhood weren't real. They were implanted. Isn't that terrible? So I haven't had the childhood I thought I had. I couldn't have had anyway if I'd been satanically ritually abused and programmed anyway. I couldn't have had that lifetime. So I know that there are lots of things to be still revealed about my life, I think, that I'm still discovering now and will continue to discover, evidently. So, then you think your whole life has been a sham. Your whole life that you've lived. The only activation point, the only time my life took on any type of meaning in the fact that I'm able to track my memories and I've got, is from the age of 44, and I'm 60 in September. So the last 16 years, I've been able to track who I am, what I've done, um, and start, with my developing my healing gifts and abilities, which were there from a childhood, evidently, because they were using them against, they were using my gifts and abilities from being a very young age. Uh, and yeah, so the last 16 years really are my life. That's all I can like relate to that I know is chronological, and I wasn't they lost me as soon as I activated apparently. So at 44, when I woke up properly and activated, they lost me as an asset. Lots of my gifts and abilities that they were using for me shut down. That's really interesting. So that's the power of when you awaken of what then happens for them. And they didn't want me to awake, but there was no chance, and that's why I was 44. I was later on, whereas really, in some aspects, especially I know the soul I am, I would have expected to be awake from birth and go right through and see through the illusion from an early age. But because I have been programmed and monarched and everything, I couldn't see. They deliberately had to brainwash me to get me not to see that, if you see what I mean, deliberately. Whereas now I can see through all the veils of illusion, and I see things on a planetary basis. I'm able to look at the planetary missions, and uh, I have access to that, and I'm able to see uh, sort of things from that perspective. Yeah, so it's sort of like a weird time for me right now, in the fact that my gifts are online. I'm able to hold incredible space. I know that. Uh, yeah, my ability to open portals and like open stargates and things, all done in reverence and with uh, only the greatest of uh, alliance with whatever my I am presence and the councils want me to do. Uh, Otherwise, we have to be very careful with that sort of work at that level. But anyway, at what's going on the planet right now, they won't allow any light worker or starseed. They won't allow any starseed or anybody who has interdimensional portal abilities to mess around, to be honest. Uh, if someone thought they were messing around, you would find that the council would be stopping that on another level. They would think they were doing the work and they wasn't. And I've seen that happen, where people think they've done something and they haven't, because I've gone and looked and they've been stopped. They didn't actually do it, because we can't afford people to be opening portals. They're there and everywhere, and there was a planetary breach on the crystalline core going back to the times of Archnaton. And Archnaton was a Christos mission, so he came in it, like in his avatar body, like Yeshua did, uh, and he came in to do some work on that timeline, and there was a planetary breach of the crystalline core because they opened up. I'm not, I haven't got the details, but they opened up the planetary core in the wrong way, and it caused a big, big problem. In fact, I think it's connected to the astral realms and the fourth dimension, and it's almost like they let the lid off, like the gate, when they go through Bardo, when someone dies in the Egyptian timelines, of the myths and legends of, they go through Bardo, 3 days of Bardo, and they have to go and have their heart weighed against a feather with Ma, the Egyptian goddess Ma, who weighs them to check that their heart is as light as a feather. And if it isn't, they can't go through to the afterworld, which is not true. That's like a myth. It's more of measuring whereabouts on the astral planes you end up, in regards to the good deeds you've done in your life and who you are on soul level. And there was some sort of breach, and I think that's where we had an issue with the astral realms coming into this reality as such. If I'm right, I feel I'm right there. Like, so it's almost then a big problem occurred in that time period, and I was linked. I'm sure I'm linked to Incarnate, and that resonates with me. That I was around during that time, and it's interesting because that was Tutankhamun's time. That was his dad. So it's around that time, and they put, I think it's called the Templar seals, on a group of people that were responsible for opening the planetary breach, the core, not properly. They did a series of things wrong, and it opened. Anyway, they put Templar seals on those people's consciousness to stop them being able to open the planetary core again. And the reason they put it in their consciousnesses is that that's how they opened it, like we do. The fact that we use our telepath abilities and our abilities to open interdimensional portals with our consciousness, because our 12th strand DNA would be activated fully to be able to allow that, and that is the avatar body, right? So they put they put consciousness seals in to prevent those people coming back into 12th strand DNA activation, but they did it as a temporary measure to stop that happening again. But the problem was they didn't reckon that those people that were given the Templar seals, it actually is it can be inherited, and that wasn't the intention for it. So people have inherited planetary seals or Templar seals of others, of ancestors. So that that has to be corrected, and that is something that I tend to do in my Ascension course level 1. There is something that assists you to take the Templar seal off your consciousness, just in case you've got it. And it explains a lot, because in the past, when I've been doing soul work with people, light body reconstruction, I can tell they've got a seal on their consciousness, and they can't go above 6D, 5D, 6D. Like, why have they got a seal on their consciousness? I realise now it was the Templar seals that I found out later on. So, we have ways of taking that off now, put it that way. But yeah, so that's an interesting story about that. And so I've got that history, and that divine feminine history, which, of course, they always target the divine feminine. They want the divine feminine avatars, because they don't want them coming online, because when we're online, we're dangerous. Aren't we? And I'm dangerous, aren't I? I'm dangerous to them. So they hit you hard as a child. It makes me feel a bit better, folks, in the fact that I know now that I chose this, that I didn't just get picked on as a child, helpless and defenseless, and that they got me, and I had no chance, and I was coming in to be something else or do something. I came in fully knowing that this was my fate. This was what I was going to hit as I came in, and it just makes me feel a bit better that evidently it was something that I was doing for the planet. I was doing it for a mission. So it helps me sort of process what that means, because then I'm not a victim, I'm a survivor, but then an intended survivor. I knew that there was a chance I wouldn't make it, and at one stage, I've mentioned it in the other episodes, that they said to me I might have to drop my body if I didn't get to a certain point. But I'm here. I'm still here. It's 2025 and I'm still here. And I'm hoping and setting that precedent, I hope, that I'm going to be here for a lot longer. I like to, because I like to live my life now with my memories intact, which I have got now. And I'd like to live my life now, and have that beautiful, I don't know, even 20 years of being able to remember every day and what you do, and enjoy it, and appreciate every moment that you live and breathe. And I do feel for all of those that have suffered such terrible abuse, because, as I've said before, it's an abomination on this planet, and that is the divine trying to clear it and end it. And I'm evidently part of the divine intervention to come and end this on the planet. And it's incredibly challenging. And the layers that come up one after the other, and then you think you're done, you think you've got somewhere, and then another layer comes up that you have to deal with, or another memory comes up, or you suddenly realise that you've got implanted false memories from childhood, so that you can't even think what your childhood was, because it's completely all rubbish and not right. And that's a hard one for me to, that takes a bit of processing. But I do feel more liberated, and I feel more in my power than I've ever done before. And at least I can think I was doing it for the planet. And I have had, I've had a conversation this week that I know it's almost like I'm talking to the divine when I'm having the conversation, and very much confirmation that you achieved what you set out to achieve. You did it, Lynn, you did it. You have done what you set out to achieve. You were successful at it, and that makes it all the better, and makes me feel a whole lot better after knowing that. I have a full and deep understanding of what it's like to be a survivor of abuse, no matter who you are. And if someone's listening now who is a survivor of abuse, whether it was emotional, mental, whether you're SRA, ritual abuse, whether it was mind control, whether it was narcissistic control abuse, whether it was sexual abuse, physical abuse, I know how it feels. And it's soul destroying, and you lose your inner core self, and your inner core self comes from your childhood. So your childhood is where your core self is formed, and your core self is your inner child. Don't know if everybody knows that, but your core self, as you're growing up, you're forming those core values, but also you're in your purest and clearest form as a child. You are your natural divine spiritual blueprint in child form. So the more that you can let a child run free, tell you what they're interested in, tell you that they want to play the violin, or they want to learn to play the guitar, or they want to try this, or they want, and watch them and observe where they are displaying interest, and then encourage that. Don't force them to do things they don't want to do. That's where you'll find a real core, balanced person being formed, where they are able to explore their own gifts and abilities, and they find their own gifts and abilities within that. And the schooling system, as we know, is just like there to mind control our children. It is. I'm sorry, folks. That is what it's become. There's agendas running right through all of these schools now of, you know, making them conform and learn false history and learn to obey and say yes. And they're trying to knock out their critical thinking skills. They're trying to sexualize them, all of those things. So if I was a mum again now, and I'm being honest truth, if I know what, but then we all would say that if I knew then what I know now, but if I was a mum now, a young mum, or I had children and I was about to send them to school, I wouldn't. I mean it, I wouldn't. I'd find a forest school, or I would find a group of women that are self-schooling with their children, and then organise something between us that the children get to play together, but we go and they self-learn, because there's no way I would put my children in a school now. I just wouldn't. I had to, and I was under mind control when my children were at school. I was in a daze, in a trance basically. So I had no idea what was going on. I mean, that's another story, but like I I just wouldn't do it now. No way would I put my kids in school. I know it's difficult because people have to work, but I just have to adapt my whole lifestyle. Like, well, I'll find a way to work from home. I'll work from home so that I can look after the kid. You know what I mean? I'd find a way. I'd find a way. Um, and that's how we're going to break the system. We've got to pull ourselves out of all of these conformities and things we're doing. And it's difficult. I know, like, if you're a starseed light worker and you've got a job and you're responsible for paying the mortgage or what, but just sort of think, like, are you going to do that forever, or you're stuck in the system? Like when I woke up at 44, I knew I had to leave my job, and that job, it was good money, and we weren't short of money when I was working there, uh, and I had to leave. That was part of my role, was to leave, and it has cost me in money, but God, with the mission I was doing, it didn't bloody matter, does it? Like, um, I mean, yeah, I lost my career, but then it wasn't a career anyway, and it was a very convenient way. They were keeping an eye on me as well, and there's lots of things I could tell you about when I was working in the hospital, and the links into the Freemasons in that hospital, and the links into the government from that hospital, and yeah, I've got all of that. I know. Of who I was working with in the unit, who was high profile, linked to the British government. So it was all part of the way I was being used, evidently, and they must have been so pissed when I left left the job. They didn't want me to do that. No, of course they didn't. That was a way of keeping control of me there, and they couldn't when I left. So it's interesting, really interesting. Yeah, so I've gone off on a tangent there with the children, but like it's true. We need these, and there are lots of people that do forest skills now and do lots of other lovely things like that. Where the children are taught in a different way, which is much better, isn't it? Than normal school. I mean, it's just I can't even imagine what they're like nowadays, and the conformity and brainwashing that goes on in those schools. Going back to my childhood, as I was talking about, I chose to come in to do this knowing full well I was going to be hit. I knew I was going to be hit and going into MK Ultra and SRA. I knew it because the family that I was linked to, my ancestral family, had all of those links. And the energy of my father from the Tudor times, being an adept with John Dee and Edward Kelly, meant that he and them are linked to the origins of satanic ritual abuse. So you can see where this is going now, can't you? Uh, they have origins to that, and Aleister Crowley. And I knew Aleister Crowley last lifetime. I didn't work with him or anything like that, but he was on the same, shall I say, circuit as me. And I was an adept in the lodges uh, last lifetime, in the 20s and 30s, 1910, all around that. I hung around with some of those people, uh, you know, I knew them, and I knew him. And in fact, I know he once tried to spellbind me. Uh, he tried to give me something, and I refused it. Uh, and that would have created a binding, a spell, and I didn't take it off him. But he was hanging around, and he was very much into all of that. In fact, he was fueling that, and a lot of the ritual magic and the Nazi, all of that energy, all it can be traced back to him, and to John Dee, and back in the Tudor timelines. And as I say, my dad was responsible for some of that. So you can imagine I was trying to heal and transmute the bloodline, um, dating back to Tudor times and beyond, of course. But I was cleaning up my dad's shit, basically, in regards to that. So I came in knowing full well that I was going to be hit hard, but I knew what I needed to do. Um, and it's so it, as I say, it makes me feel better that I knew that I was coming in to do that, and that this is where they were going to hit me, and hit me hard. um and yeah, it's just obvious that was going to happen. And I've had confirmation that we've done a lot of work to disband that energy from the Tudor timeline, and there's other people doing work and energy from the Tudor timeline as well. I came across someone recently who was working the Tudor timelines via Anne Boleyn, interestingly, but mine was coming down from my dad's line and Elizabeth I. So the Elizabeth I energy, and my dad, uh, and the fact that my dad sacrificed my mother in the Tudor timeline to get his black magic contract, so he could be taught some of the dark arts with them. But he was like, I was thinking my dad was a small player, you see. But then when you start to dig and go in, I realised he was a big player. So that's why, I had to come in and heal and transmute that bloodline. It was imperative that it got cleared and healed for the future timelines. So, of course, you're going to get hit for that, aren't you? And I forgot my train of thought because I was going to say something about my childhood, and now I've completely forgot. So there you go. I'm recording this on a Sunday morning, so it's dead quiet and relaxed, and I haven't properly had a cup of tea yet. So there you go. You always need a cup of tea, don't you? First thing in the morning. Well, I do. I don't know about everybody else. If you're in America, I suppose it's a cup of coffee. But coffee gives me a headache, so in the morning. So it's got to be a cup of tea, and then later on, if I need a cup of coffee, I will. Saying that, it's a very rare occasion I have a coffee. I just thought I'd tell you that for a little bit of information. So yeah, going back to the Elizabethan timeline is so crucial because John Dee's black magic workings and energy has affected America via the Elizabeth I incarnation, and that lifetime that she had. So she was used as well. So there is and Anne Boleyn was used as well. Henry VIII was being used. So it's all that energy that is ramifications for today, actually, and what's going on in the world. So and don't believe everything you read in the Truth Movement in regards to that, the timeline is going deeper and darker and horrible and da da da. Yes, they are. They are doing their best. They are doing their best. But um, we're on a different timeline than that, right? Because you need to set the intention that you're on a higher timeline, right? And then you do whatever you need to do to make sure you're on that higher timeline. And uh, also, we're dismantling the ability to generate loosh from all these terrible things they do, and we have to stop this. It has to be stopped. It's just, it's just awful. But I do know that there'll be a serious deficit now that they've got going on in regards to that energy. And thank God. But we need to help all of those people that have been affected by this type of abuse, or any type of abuse is bad enough, and we have to peel layers away to heal that abuse. And as I say, me going through this, I understand intensely what it's like to be living in the aftermath of abuse, how it makes you feel, that core self of the child that is ripped away and splintered and fragmented on purpose. And then your core self. Who is your core self? If you've been attacked as a child and raped and abused in any way, or even just your child self cannot form their core self. Therefore, you don't really know who you are. You are, and you're working from that fragmented core in a child, who is scared, uh, who doesn't feel protected, doesn't feel safe, doesn't feel in control. Like you respond to the world in your child's self. I don't know if that's resonating with anyone. Where it's almost like you. I've always, like, when I've tried to explain what I felt like, it felt like I was standing on a giant jelly or blancmange, if you can imagine that, and that everything was unsteady. Everything was not rooted and grounded and secure. So any type of thing going on in my life, incident or whatever, would send me into a panic uh, of, like, what's going to happen? This might happen, that might happen. And then I could feel my adrenaline running in my body, and I was in that fear of flight. And, and then I would self-medicate by drinking too much wine. That was my drug of choice. Uh, I didn't really. I could pick up a cigarette and put it down again. I never was addicted to cigarettes, but I would smoke occasionally, socially. I didn't do drugs, but then I was under mind control. So maybe on some level, my I am presence was saying, you can't do that. That will absolutely tip you. You maybe go into like I don't know, paranoia, whatever. Like you just couldn't. I couldn't do that. I never was, and I was given enough drugs anyway, because if they wanted to knock me out or whatever, they would drug me. So I've had enough drugs in my system anyway, I can imagine. Um, and so alcohol was my coping strategy. Um, alcohol. Like working at the hospital, coming home, you've seen some things, get back, you open a bottle of wine, before you know it, you've half a bottle's gone, hasn't it? During the week, I'd probably stick to that, but the weekends, it'd be a bottle of wine on an evening, and you know what it's like. You need more to get the same effect. So before you know it, at a party, you've drunk a bottle and a half, or whatever you have, and you do that every night of the weekend, and and it was my drug of choice, alcohol, because that was the thing that would self-soothe me. Oh, you think it self-soothes you? Of course, we now know what alcohol can do, and all that sort of thing. But you're trying to find some way to take away that inner anxiety, that inner wobbliness, that inner, like, panic, not being in control type energy. And so as I say, wine would do that for me. So, I mean, I'm lucky that I didn't really hit the hard spirits or stuff like that. I would occasionally I'd have a Southern Comfort and lemonade or a gin and tonic, but not. I wasn't really a great spirit drinker. Thank God for that. But we all have our coping mechanisms. Someone might just chain smoke all day because that's their coping mechanism. We're just human. Like, we're in a human body right now with something great, far greater, but we're in a meat suit, we're in a human body, and that was the way people coped, and whatever way people have learnt to cope through abuse or any type, then you can't judge them. Like, God knows, if you haven't been through what they've been through, then you can't judge them, can you? So I'm sort of this episode is all a bit of a hodgepodge of different things, but it's just my thoughts, how I want to express myself, but just trying to explain to people, why did they target me? Why did they want me? Right, that's why. They wanted me because of my abilities to open portals, to be able to access the higher realms, for the power of who my soul is, and what we can, and this links also to the not the Elizabethan timeline, the Egyptian timeline, and my history on the Egyptian timeline. I've been a pharaoh's mother as well, and that then, you can imagine, can't you? Like they're like tracking you down the timelines, and sort of, they came after all of the solar logos, Melchizedek girls, the blue rays, the blue Nile. They call it the blue Nile code holders, the Mu holders. Holding the codes of Lemuria and the cosmic star mothers. All of that. They would want you. They would come after you because you have got the ability to go 12-strand DNA activation, and you've got access into the mother arc and the cosmic divine feminine at its highest level. Of course they're going to come after you. They'd be daft not to, wouldn't they? So that is what, and they've followed us down the timelines, and then they've hooked, as I say, for me, the Egyptian timeline was one of the hooks, I realise now. And I actually now have information that my husband, who died in 2022, I realise now, and I remembered that I'd recalled that we had a lifetime together in Egypt, and he was a high priest and I was a high priestess. Now, I'd seen us in a temple, and I'd seen him. I was led on the temple, like the altar, and I thought we were making love, right? And I got only a bit of the scene. It actually dropped in this week, which was really big. It dropped in very fast and big. Was that he sacrificed me on that altar in that temple after we made love, and he sacrificed me in a black magic ritual ceremony. Now, that was going on all the time in Egypt, so don't think that's anything unusual. It's not. And that's where he got his hook in me, which meant that he was able to travel and track me down the timelines to this lifetime. And I now know that and had full confirmation of that. So that was one of the hooks that assisted them to hook me up with him. And him playing a lifetime of, you look at him and he's just like Joe Blogs, all this sort of thing. Oh, I'm not important. I just got this job and I'm a working man and I've got a trade. And we're dealing with a fucking... Excuse me, I'm swearing again. Close your ears if you don't like it. We're dealing with a very powerful high priest who is more powerful than you think. In fact, a very powerful soul that has decided to go on the dark side. and has been running a lot of dark stuff in other lifetimes as I started to track him. Like, wow. So that's only just come in recently. So they knew exactly what they were doing. And evil doesn't always present, folks, in a, a black cloak with a hat looking like Dracula, right? Or a demon, or whatever you think. Evil does not always present in the way you would think. It presents in a package of a fun loving guy with a big heart who da da da. Yeah. And that is a big lesson for me. A big lesson. And there are loads of people walking around this planet right now that are evil incarnate, and you would not know they are. We only need to look at the politicians in the other countries that portray a beautiful image of being a good family guy or a good family girl, you know, and are everybody loves them. They speak well, they present well, they look very loving, caring, responsible people, but behind the scenes they are devils incarnate. And what I mean by that is they are high satanic sect. They are, they've got Luciferian and satanic blood contracts running. They are completely possessed, but can put on the charm, and that is almost like the narcissistic energy as well, isn't it? Of a narcissist putting on the charm of being everybody. Oh, isn't he lovely? And isn't he gorgeous? And isn't he charismatic? And isn't he fun? Oh God, you must be so lucky to be married to him. But behind closed doors, he hits you, or he controls you, or he's very abusive in certain areas. And no one would believe you if you turn around and said that he abuses me. What? No, he wouldn't do that sort of thing. That is how you never know how people are packaged and what's going on underneath. And that has been a big learning curve for me. And I've learned that in the last 16 years, actually, of doing this soul work and working with people, and also people coming into my life and looking like they were really lovely people. And actually, behind the scenes, they're completely overshadowed, or there's an agenda running with them that you didn't realize. I have a gift of that, of being able to like see the energy behind a person, and I can tell the moment the energy changes or shifts. um I can I can see that, like, you've changed or you've shifted, or that energy's not good, and I can tap in and then sometimes see who stood behind them. Uh, and it's not always very nice. So, don't be naive, folks, with people. Yeah, sometimes people play games and they play an agenda. And just warning you, you listen to this as a star seed, right? You get savvy, because there will be ways they will try and target you. They target all star seeds anyway, uh, to sort of take you off balance, take you off your game, to take you off mission, and to distract you. And that can be anybody. It can be family members, partners, it can children, it can be anybody. If they can get at them to work on them, then and I'm sure some of you will have had experience of that anyway. And we have to be very focused on us and the mission and the job we're doing, and that, and because that's what we came here to do. And that is our test and initiation, to be able to see through the bullshit, see through the manipulation and control, and to break out of it, and to find your true north pathway, because that is the initiation and tests of ascension. Because if you can't negotiate that, or you're not willing to take yourself out of a situation where you're being controlled or you're being dominated and played, then I'm not trying to, I'm just saying you're not passing the initiation. and self-mastery is vital for ascension, isn't it? We're coming back into the energy of an ascended master, right? So that a master of your energy, you're a master of your own energy and your environment and your world and your reality. You have to be a master of your own reality. So there you go. Well, we're up to 50 minutes, so I don't really want to go much over that because I know I talk and talk and talk. But hopefully you listen to this while you're making the tea, or you're, I don't know, you're on the bus, I don't know, with headphones in, hopefully, or whatever you're doing, But I just feel good for talking. It helps me. It helps me. It helps me to put things in perspective. It helps me to release that as well and make sense of my world and what's been going on for me. So I'm really pleased that I shared like the reason why I was targeted, uh, and the reason why I came in fully knowing that I was coming into a satanic family. I knew I was coming into mind control. I knew they would get me, but I came in anyway. And many survivors of satanic ritual abuse and MK Ultra are in the same ilk as me. Um, I might be slightly different or a rarer bird in the fact that I came in to dismantle particularly the grids, and knowing who I am and what I'm capable of. Uh, Thank God I activated during it, and I know, as I say, I've had some feedback recently that there's been some major takedowns in the last few weeks of the grids linked to my work as well. So that makes it all worthwhile, and hopefully in my future years I'm going to try and put some sort of service together for the survivors of this in some way that might assist them on a non-profit basis. I'm also looking, all of my protocols I have in my courses and my teaching on plasma quantum bridge training is very effective for any type of abuse. You don't need to have been abused to train with me, not at all. Because this protocols are for all star seeds and light workers, but the protocols that I have are very, very effective on any type of abuse that anybody's ever suffered, and it will speed up the process of healing. And because I've used it on myself, and if I can heal from the worst atrocities of MK Ultra and satanic ritual abuse, then others can too. And that's my legacy really, and that's the legacy I want to leave, of leaving these protocols, teaching others how to accelerate the healing, so that you come out of it much quicker, because it breaks my heart to see people that have been suffering or are in a terrible place after satanic ritual abuse, and they've been suffering for 30 years. Like, please, no, this is not, we can't allow this to carry on. And those protocols can be adapted for children. And that's something else that is on my list, that at some point there may be a way that I can give these protocols out and adapt them for children. And oh my God, that would be amazing. So I've got a lot to look forwards to, and we all have. And it's a bright, beautiful, blue sky, sunny day where I am, so I'm going to enjoy it today. And thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to me. And thank you for following my podcast. I really appreciate it. I've got a new website about to be launched, thank goodness. And, if you want to buy me a coffee, there's a link, or a cocktail, or a cup of tea. And as I say, I offer a range of services, and I'm always here if you need me for any sort of work with the light body, or any assistance you need. So lots of love, and thank you so much for listening. Until next time, and bye.